And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I am your host, Wes Tankersley. We have a real special guest for you today, a returning guest, and someone will be kind of a mainstay for a while on the podcast. We have been working with Morning Coffee, kind of a live. It kind of went a little awry this morning, but every day you can catch Morning Coffee with myself, talking about the things that I go through. And then every so often you will be catching interviews. Today is an interview, but it is with a former guest, Robert Watson, who is authoring a new book that's about to be released. And we're going to talk about that a little bit and what we're going to be doing on Shaping Success with Robert. Let's get him in here. Robert, it's good to have you back.
Thank you, Wes. I appreciate you. Still adjusting to the seeing my face on camera.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting because, as I mentioned in the intro there, we are going to be kind of doing some reviews of your book and a little podcast together. And I really like the way that we've decided to do this because it's going to be Shaping Success, but we're just going to have like a little spin-off of it all is under the network, and then it'll be on your YouTube page and all that stuff, and we'll be breaking down your book. It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's an opportunity for me kind of to, you kind of write in your head. This is an opportunity for me to talk it out, so to speak.
Yeah.
In other words, how does it really sound when, you're conversing with someone else?
And we haven't talked about it, but as we were saying that, I was thinking about David Goggins' book and how he sat down with the I can't remember his name right now, but they sat down and they did an audio book together where they really went through the book and then broke it down over time. And it was, I've told a lot of people, because if you read, like visually read, I listen to a lot of books. It's not as good for me to read it as it is to listen to it, because you really get the person's voice in there and you kind of get the feeling of what they're going through.
Yeah, and it's I'm often caught writing about something that I have the full emotion of, and sometimes the words don't exactly bring it out. So, yeah, actually doing the audio of my book will be a real positive because I can emphasize the points that are meaningful. You can see that I try to start most of the chapters with a story that's relevant to me, and I have all the emotion of it, and trying to sometimes articulate that's tough.
Yeah, and I've over the last couple of years, I think I've probably known you for maybe 2 years now. I have to go back and look at it. Like time kind of melds together as you get older, right? Like it just keeps kind of melding and melding. But we had you on before, and we just kind of talked about your life and what you're doing. And this book has been kind of going for a while now. Ars Victoris, What Makes Life Better is what the title is. And you've sent me snippets and you've had blogs about kind of what the chapters are all, and you just kind of put it all together in this book to help people realize, I'm going to call it what I want to call it but it's similar. It's like we've always had this kind of same mindset, but it's about success and how you created some of the things that you did, how you got there, and teaching people if they want to do something more, the opportunity is there. They just have to do the work.
Yeah, the biggest challenge for most people is they can't accept the fact that you need 100 failures before you get real success or you get any kind of victory. And there's this ethos in our country now that suggests that failure is wrong, it's bad, it should be avoided. And the reality is that you can't learn any of the things that I've accomplished by any other way than failure. I mean, I can't even tell you what my first landing of an aircraft looked like. I mean, it was, so horribly bad that, but again, my flight instructor's like, well, yours wasn't as bad as some.
Yeah.
So, but by the third or fourth time around, I landed the aircraft. But it's trial and error. Life is trial and error, and therefore you have to be able to be comfortable with making mistakes and using them to learn, not to chastise, or you want to correct. But there's no point in suggesting that you can learn how to fly any other way than through failure.
Yeah, and it's amazing because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like where society has gone, right, over the past like 20, 30 years. I'm a Gen Xer. and you see how like we were treated versus, like the boomers and then now this millennial group, it's like everyone gets a trophy because no one can lose. And the truth in that whole matter is that someone has to lose. Someone doesn't have to get that trophy because I lost a state championship one year. I didn't get the first place trophy. I won a state championship next year. I got it. But like all the things that I learned the previous year in the mistake and the failure led me to being better the next year. It's amazing that we don't teach that anymore, that you can't fail.
I always loved coaches said that second place, and I got several second places along the way. Second place is the first loser.
Yep.
And, when you begin to understand that, you take great humility in accepting the fact that you were number two, and you use that to correct and get better. And hopefully you get another shot to be number one. But, I remember one time I was in high school playing basketball, and we went to a tournament and we lost. We were number two. And then they handed me the MVP for the tournament on the losing team.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't know how to handle it other than to throw my towel over the MVP trophy and just hide it, because it was like, I can't take pleasure in MVP as number two.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part, because how could you be? And I would think the same way. It's like, how could you be? You may have like made the most points, or you may have done all the right things compared to anyone else on the other team, but the result that you were looking for was not there. So
no. And the end result, and my coach, of course, made a joke of it. Next year we won, but he made a joke of it, and he said, "So is this the way things are going to be? You're going to be MVP, and we're going to get number two."
Oh, that's tough, because I know exactly how you took that. Because it's the same way I would take it and be like,
yeah,
I didn't do enough, is what you're saying.
pretty much.
Yep. Oh my gosh, yeah, and that's the thing that that doesn't come out anymore. I was asked a question last week, about like, and we're not, and this is out of like I'm not trying to talk like politically, but like about in general, the wokeness, right? Like of all these things that are going on that, you can't lose. You can't say anything bad about anyone. You can't say these things that we used to say before. It's like, is it gone? Is it going away? And I don't know. I was kind of like taken aback. Like, does it feel like it? Because there's this shift every day, right? Like we're going towards the trophy, then we're kind of going away from the trophy, then we're coming back. It's just like, it's funny how that works.
Yeah, I don't suspect anybody could say what my coaches used to say to me, because, of course, I'm a boomer. And so let me put it this way. My drill sergeant in basic training damn sure couldn't do what he did to us back then today.
Yeah.
Not even close. But, there was another basketball story. We were down by 8 points at halftime, and we didn't look very good. And I think I had 6 points, and we came in and we all, as a team, kind of folded to the outside, because we know the coach was going to start throwing shit. Seriously. Literally start throwing stuff. Because that's what they did, right?
Yep.
They're mad. Chairs got kicked, and they never laid hands on us. It wasn't it. So that all happened. And he called me, because I was the captain of the team. He called me, several very colorful names. To say the least, I scored 16 points in the second half and we won the game. Humiliation in some respects, because he knew what drove me.
Right.
And so he was like, I just need to get what's wrong with this guy or young man. He just isn't on his game. Let me get him on his game. Let me put my foot up his, and it worked, of course.
I have been there. I have been there in the exact same situation. And it was funny because playing football, it was the same thing. It's like our coach came in. So I'm assuming that like every time you were losing, that probably happened, because that's kind of where it is. Like you couldn't do that every single time, or you probably get in trouble. When I was growing up, because we're a few years apart, but I still had the time where I can still see my coaches he's throwing the garbage can across the locker room, spittles coming out of his face.
Yep.
And I had other players coming in and telling me I was playing like crap, and I was offensive lineman. And it was funny because even though they said that I was playing like crap and he yelled like that, it just drove me to do more And then when I came back in, they always had a shirt that someone got at the end of the game, kind of like the game ball. And I got that, and I kind of looked at the guy who said I wasn't playing very well. I'm just like, yeah, good job, bud.
Mm-hmm.
But those were those moments that they drove you to do more. You're like, just, I don't know, it just motivated me.
Yeah, I mean, and the idea that some days you're just off when you start. There was one football game I played and at quarterback, and I was 14 for 17, right? 3 touchdowns. All 14 passes, all 14 completions, I did not see because I got drove into the ground.
Because you're on your back.
So, in essence, yeah. So, in essence, all I did was listen to the fans on the 3 touchdowns. I knew I'd scored
Yeah.
because by the time they got done unpiling from me, because it wasn't just one guy that hit me, right? It was like, because back in the day, they could not hit you, they could keep hitting you.
Right.
So they did. And I was laying on the ground, and all I'm doing is listening to the crowd. And I'm going, yeah, I must have completed because all I saw was the opening and the throw. And then I just got, creamed.
Yep.
And that's life. And you adjusted to that. It's, and I guess that probably makes you stronger because, there wasn't any red jersey on a football field.
Right.
There was in practice, but not on a football field.
Yep.
And those guys took special privileges. It was a running story. As I told you before, I was trying out for the NFL. And there was a guy named Alfred Williams, and he was a 6'7" defensive end for the Raiders. And we were working out together. And he said, how fast you? And I said, I'm a 4'6". He said, I'm a 4'6". I said, well, then I'm a 4'5'5". I promise you.
You're not catching me.
You're not getting me. This guy was 2 inches taller than me, and he was cut up. Oh my God, he was a specimen of an athlete. And I was like, and I swear to God, when he lifted his hands up, I didn't see that side of the field. It was like, holy crap. So yeah, I was just a little bit faster than him. That's all that mattered.
I love that because it talks about like that really just it's making an adjustment, right? Like he's not going to catch me, so the adjustment is I'm going to be faster today.
That's it. How fast can you run? A little bit faster than him.
Yeah, exactly. That's great.
Because I think he had like 30 pounds on me too, so he was going to smash me.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Not just hit me, but smash me.
And things are a little bit faster in the NFL than they are on the college football field or the high school football field.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh yeah. You don't. The funny thing about it is he used to say, "What do you see?" And the answer is a sliver. You kind of know where somebody's supposed to be, and all your offensive linemen get taller and taller. When you get to the NFL, they're all 6'5", 6'7". I'm only 6'5", and so you can imagine with people's hands up, it's really hard to see.
Yeah, and I was talking to my brother is like a huge 49ers fan, and we were talking about football. You know how Brady was talking about a couple weeks ago how it's really soft, and they're like, well, if it's so soft, all these rules are put in place because of you. But then we started talking about the West Coast offense, and I don't know if you've ever read Bill Walsh's book, The Score Takes Care of Itself, but he talks about how everything is you have a process of the way that you do it. When I tell you you're going to take 3 steps, and those 3 steps are going to be 3 feet exactly, and then you're going to turn, that's what it's going to be. And they created with Joe Montana a smaller guy who didn't have a really strong arm, this guy who knew where his receivers were going to be every single time so that he could process that and just hit them because, he's either going to end up on the ground or they've got to get these short passes off. And my little brother didn't even understand that. That's the way the game was played. He's like, he threw balls down the field. And it's like, go back and look. They ran the ball. They threw the ball short passes. Jerry Rice is, they're talking about, and how this came up was they're talking about Christian McCaffrey's about to break the single season touchdown record, or he did. I don't know. I don't watch it very much, but they were talking about that. And he didn't realize that Jerry Rice, the majority of his receptions and touchdowns were yards after the catch, not catching long balls. And it was just kind of funny how that became
perception. Yeah. Very, very different kind of perception. And also remember in my generation, I don't think necessarily in yours, but in mine, we had to be able to run the option.
Yep.
So, it wasn't that we all had to be able to throw and run. And so contact was normal. That's the reason why we were hit all the time. You ran an option, you optioned it off. They weren't going to hold you. They were going to plow you. So, yeah. So you took great pleasure. My left shoulder shows it for this day because when you got in the secondary, it was payback time, baby.
Yeah.
Because you had 30 pounds on the guys that you were going to hit, and so you did.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, you know. I think I was probably on the end of that era because so it was funny. My sophomore year, we ran a spread offense, and then we lost our all-state quarterback, and we had to turn our all-state receiver into a quarterback, and then we started running the veer, and man, it was crazy. That option, that triple option, is nuts. And then we turned around and went back and won the state championship. But we went from completely passing, a little bit of running, to all running, and it's a completely different game. You can't do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, and but it was really, really grand when you could run, when you fake to the fullback, right? So you just run a traditional I, fake to the fullback. Then the halfback runs with you, and sometimes you could punch step the outside linebacker and take a step back and throw it.
Yeah,
Because if you could punch step the outside linebacker to step up, who was right behind him? The tight end. So that's all you were trying to do was get the tight end to basically just, block him and then shed off. And if he steps up to get you, he's toast. There's no one back there but the safety.
yep,
Not a soul back there.
yep.
So
Yeah, it was great. I loved running that offense because there was a lot of times I was an offensive tackle and I was pulling.
oh yeah.
You're pulling, someone's going down, and it's gonna hurt.
Oh yeah. And then that's what and we were so, I got to tell you how grateful I am for, you know, pulling guards. Anybody, also grateful for wide receivers who would step in. They couldn't block an outside linebacker. They just could get in his way.
Yeah,
But the fact that they could, oh my gosh,
yeah.
you know, yeah. And this didn't end up trying to be a football conversation.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm sitting here thinking how we can tie it to the book though, because I think
yeah,
that really is what it's a lot about. And I don't know that people really understand how many things you've been through. And that's what's great about this is that I was listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger talk about no one being a self-made man the other day. Like everyone is always, there's all these different things that people have helped you along the way. And I think your
right.
book is there to help other people because you've been through it. And that's kind of what I try to do too. It's like, what have I been through? And my life is definitely not as interesting as yours is. There's so many things that you have been through, but that's what it's about. It's like, how can we help other people to do those things? So let's talk a little bit about the book and, how these things kind of molded you, you know?
Well, is each, and, I never made it to the NFL, even though I had three different shots, once at quarterback and twice at tight end. I never made it for a variety of reasons. It doesn't matter. The training and the preparation was still the same. You still had to pretend like you were going to make it, like you were going to play a 14 game season. That's how you had to prepare. And so, I had a beast of a strength coach. I had wonderful coaching and in my workouts and stuff. I mean, all of them former pros. And so I worked out with, see Musa Muhammad Jr. playing for A&M now. His father and I used to do the hill out in West Houston. And so, like I said, there's all good coaching. I've always said that my life isn't particularly interesting, but the people I've met along the way are amazing.
Yeah.
And that has caused me to be a lot better. Like the one story I tell in the book, I think it's in a title under the concept of all in, is the first time I benched 500.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because it was such a big deal, but it was a goal to fend off the boredom of lifting because lifting gets boring, especially in my case where I had to go from 230 to 260 to play tight end. So I had to put on 30 pounds of bulk. And that's just boring. I mean, it really is. So to get rid of the tedium, a friend and I decided to set 500 as a bench goal. And so I remember that day, and they had put the plates on both sides, and I had three spotters, two on the ends and one in the middle, because it's 505. It was either 505 or 515. I don't remember what it was, but and the bar was bending. One of the things people don't realize is the bar is bending on the, and you're like, oh Jesus.
Right.
And so I remember him, Bob leaning into me and just said, man, you got this. I mean, you repped out 10 at 240 like it wouldn't even didn't even matter. You got this. And once again, I had wonderful coaching. I had great preparation. I had the best of the best as far as people are concerned. All I had to do was give 105%, and I was good. But it wasn't because of me. This wasn't like some kind of self-made thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm self-made in the sense that I had the intention and I did it, but I'm not self-made in the sense that I didn't have incredible coaching or like flying on, I recount the crash in the opening part of the book, then my first plane crash. And everybody laughs and goes, "Your first plane crash?" Yeah, if you fly long enough, you're going to have a couple.
More than one.
You just don't have to, it doesn't have to ruin the plane. It doesn't have to do a lot of things. It's just life. I mean, people think of plane crashes as twisted metal. Well, no, a plane crash is, you can get to the runway on a plane crash.
Yeah.
And the success of what I did was literally the talent of the people that trained me. And they were phenomenal individuals. They saved my life. My first jump at 14 and a half, I had a partial riser, meaning, I had the worst of worst conditions. If my riser did not come up and I couldn't get it, I had to cut away with a partially open chute and deploy a second chute. That'd kill most people.
Yeah.
And, once again, I had great training. Did I do the training? Sure. Did I learn? Yeah, but I had great training
Yeah.
across the board. That's what it's always about.
And I'm looking through the names of the chapters, and I feel like this is one of the things that I don't know that people were trying. What you're trying to do is you want to turn this into a coaching program, right? Where you can help other
Right.
people find this. And there's so many different things in here that they're, to me, it's like a big toolbox looking at it. You call them essays in here. That's kind of what they are. And that's how your blog was. But there's different things in here like dealing with pressure, learning how to lose. That's not what the titles are called, but that's kind of what it's about, right? Being
Yep.
able to be being able to be flexible in certain things, getting distracted, your passions, regret, overthinking, a huge one.
Yeah.
And so with your coaching, what are you planning on doing? Are you planning on using this as a kind of like a toolbox? Hey, let's go through this. Let's think about all these things that you're doing. What are the blocks and how to get through
Yeah.
those?
In simple terms, I reverse engineered what I knew worked. And it is a combination, what I call safe, which is strange but people understand that to train properly is to strategize to achieve the abilities you need and then fearless execution. And, the abilities you need, of course, are skills, knowledge, and confidence. You need the funding sometimes to do it, but it's skills, knowledge, and confidence. You really, really have to have the ability to do what you say. So you can strategize, I want to learn how to fly, but you better get some damn good flight instructors.
Right.
And we used to laugh because one lady, really, really sweet lady from South Africa, made the comment to me about consulting. And I said, I am so glad that a consultant did not train me to fly a plane. I don't need a consultant. I need a pilot.
Right.
And I think that's really what I'm trying to suggest is the difference here is you don't need a life coach who has done virtually nothing but read books. If you want to, the old term in martial arts for master is someone who has walked or climbed the mountain before you. That's really what you need. And I think that it's lost on people that you're trying to implement strategies that they've never implemented to achieve goals that they've never had.
Right.
And so I won't suggest to you that I know how to, well, I'm trying to think about what I don't know how to do. Because I was going to use it, but I actually know how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
as
got you.
along the way, you begin to understand that if you want to learn to fly, I can teach you to fly. If you want to learn to scuba dive, you want to learn to jump out of an airplane, all these things that you want to try to accomplish, you better do it with somebody who's. And it's the same thing with building a business. If you want to build a business, one of the big things that people have a hard time with, and this is one of the things I'm coaching a couple friends on, is execution of a very simple decluttered list of things every morning. And I've worked with my son to do that. He's an Army officer. And basically, what you're trying to do is declutter your life to the point where you can accomplish whatever you need to accomplish in the day to consider the day a success. And that doesn't mean you control your day from 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 at night. That's craziness. That's not the way life is.
Right.
You have kids. It's a zoo. I mean, it just is. People have asked me, why did I learn to run at 4 o'clock in the morning? Because I raised 5 kids.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's
Because I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and did it before they woke up. Because once they woke up, I was at their demand, not mine. I did not control that. So I've tried to get people to learn to control what they can control. And you'll see the SEAL mantra in there, which is the idea of a 3-foot world. You only control what's 3 foot around you. In other words, what's arm's length. Everything else is out of your control.
yeah.
So consequently, I just want people to wake up in the morning and do 5 things that they must do to consider their day a success. Get them out of the way, and your day's a success, and the rest of it, go with the flow. But that little simple thing drives big goals. In other words, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Right.
Well, that's what happens with people with New Year's resolutions.
Yep.
They basically are. The best one is I think it's in the book, is we used to get, as members of workout clubs, we hated January because we were flooded with all these people we knew weren't going to be there in February.
Right.
And so in December, it was really wonderful because everybody had absolutely quit by that time and the gym was absolutely empty. Everybody was overeating and we're like, oh, this is so wonderful. And we'd all look at each other going, oh, January is going to be such a beast
Yeah.
because all these people are going to be in there competing for equipment and stuff and they won't finish. And the model for the industry is they know that 80% of the people will never use the membership more than a couple times.
Right. So they make the money.
That's it. That's how they make their money. It's a failure model.
Yep.
But don't forget to bring up dating app before we leave, because that's kind of another failure model, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's in the book, but it's these models where they make a lot of money off the assumption of human failure and human frailty.
Right.
I know that you're not going to come work out. And we hated that aspect, but it was true. They wouldn't. But I try to tell people, how are you going to do this? Well, I want to go run 3 miles. Well, why don't you start by running a half a mile and walking 2?
Yep.
And I just tell people to eat things like the elephant, one bite at a time. Do it slow. Do it simple. Don't get sore. Why? You don't get sore. You don't want to fight soreness and a lack of willpower at the same time.
Yeah. It's perfect example because you go out and you do like, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. It's like, the last time I talked to you on the podcast, we talked about why you run. And if you can get that one thing that you hate out of the way in the morning, it'll set you up for the rest of the day. And so a couple weeks later, I started working out and I did it for a year straight. Like, you have the days on your TikTok posts every single day, how many days you've been doing it. I couldn't keep going because I had so much stuff in between. And again, like, I hate excuses, but that's what it is. Like, we're trying to move, we're trying to do all this stuff. Now I got the gym set up in the other room, and as soon as I'm ready, and I'm not going to say January 1st because I hate that. As soon as I'm ready, I'm going to start working out every day because that is what I need to do. And I don't like New Year's resolutions. I started talking about it this morning on Morning Coffee, and then my internet kind of went wonky. But you don't have to have a day to do something new. You need to just do it and then continue to keep working at it every single day. And
Matter of fact, you're actually better off not. You're better off literally deciding what is today, Wednesday? On Friday, has nothing to do with the New Year's resolution. On Friday, I'm going to go forever.
Yep.
And they said, well, what's Friday? Friday.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
It's either day one, right? Or never.
The funny thing about the pain and the exercise, though, is that I was telling my buddy, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting older. I need to do some squats. I'm going to go throw some weight on the bar. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to do 10 air squats. And I'm going to see how, I'm going to do 20 air squats because I know I'm going to feel the next day. And like you said, when you're in pain and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that yesterday, I did too much, it's real easy to say, I'm not doing it today because I need to recover from this instead of the pain is what is making you stronger. And I mean, there's an extent that you can take that to, but like I keep going back to Arnold Schwarzenegger's book because it was funny because he talked about a couple things that we're talking about, like making those goals. You start out with like a telescope. You zoom way out and you look and you see the big picture, and then you zoom in and you start from the zoom in to get to the zoom out. But he was also talking about Muhammad Ali and how he used to do sit-ups, and he's like, he didn't start counting them until it started hurting because he wasn't making any progress unless there was a little bit of pain involved with the sit-ups, because you could do 10, 20 sit-ups and not feel anything. But on that 21st one, now you've got that cramp in your stomach. Now you feel the pump or whatever, and it's, you got to get there. You can't get there in the comfort zone. And weightlifting is something that he kept talking about too, how it's a failure, right? You lift until you fail because that's how you get stronger.
Yeah. It's back to that failure model, which is something that people, they link to that word dejection. It makes me less of a person. It's not. It just means you've learned. You can either bring the failure forward or the lesson.
Yep.
You choose. And I choose to bring the lesson. I've in situations where I've coached people with divorce, and they just look at it and they say, "Well, I've gotten a divorce," and I'm like, "Okay, you gonna stop?" And they're like, "Well, but next time." I said, "Well, hold on. Let's break this down. Let's break the failure down. Let's understand what the lesson is. But it's okay. When you get over the emotion of it, we'll break it down and figure out how to make it better."
Right.
Because that's what you're doing with everything. You're just breaking it down and saying, okay, here's what caused the failure. And you always tell people, and it's really hard for them, as I said, you want to own 100% of your failure.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, but no, my marriage was 50-50. I said, no, you need to own 100%. And they said, why? I said, because what you don't own, you can't fix.
Right.
If I own it all, I can fix it all. Because you're 100%, because if not, you give over power to your partner and you say your partner has 50% of the power for success in your relationship. I don't want to give that power up.
Right.
I want to build the best kind of model that I can build, and I know that things don't work out as well as I want to. I mean, trust me, I've been through enough failure. Things don't work out. That's life. But you need to be 100% responsible. And that's one of the other things is people don't want to take responsibility. They're the victim of, you and I talked about this, victim of this and that and other things. We can use the N word, narcissist, which is, I know we're taking a big risk here, but
oh yeah. Now, you know what? It's one of those deals. I've done an episode on it before. You and I have talked about it. It was funny that the video you sent me the other day was kind of the video that triggered that conversation that we had the other day, because everyone's a narcissist when they do something wrong and they don't look in to see like what the real picture is, right? Like what's the big picture. This is not necessarily the fact that they're a narcissist, other than you didn't like the fact that every bit of attention wasn't on you, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You have to realize that you are on the other end of that, you're 50% responsible for the way that you take things, right? Like that's part, well, you're 100% responsible for the way you take things. Like if I'm going to sit here and listen to you and you tell me something and I don't like it, it's how I feel. It's not how you feel, know? It's, I kind of had something going on this, over Christmas break, and, if my family listens to this, whatever, they typically don't. But like I like to drink a little bit. Like I don't like to get drunk, but I have other family members who have problems with drinking. And so they don't drink. And when they don't drink, they look at me and they're going, well, why is he a little different? And I'm not, but they are projecting their thought process onto me because they feel like I'm different because they're not drinking. Like, it's always someone else's fault. I don't know if that makes sense or not to you, but like that, I'm just kind of thinking about my little brother has issues with drinking. And so then now I'm a different person because I drink, and all of a sudden I'm got a drinking problem. It's like, yeah, no, that's not it. And you don't know how I feel, and you don't know who it was just kind of a weird deal, but it's again, it's how you process that.
Yeah. And a lot of it is this generational thing about being a victim of something.
Yep.
all the things that have went wrong in my life, I have to break them down and ask the question is okay, what do I need to change? And I never am the victim of anything. I could get hit by lightning and I would just say, well, okay, what do I fix about that?
Yeah.
It's not a victim. I mean, that doesn't serve me to be at the mercy of anything, even though I'm at the mercy of everything.
Right.
I mean, I know that's really a paradox for most people, but one of the things you learn in flying is it's Mother Nature, and she's mean.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that, but it doesn't matter. My preparation is 110%. That's caused me to survive Mother Nature's, at least so far. It's caused me to survive her fickleness.
Right.
It's killed other people. The reality is that again, you can't control everything, but you can make sure that you're as prepared as you possibly can be. That's all you can do. The one guy put it really well. What did he say? To make art out of chaos.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, that I love. That I'm going to borrow because you really do want to make art out of chaos. And I think that's going back to the 5 things we want to get people to accomplish every day when they start their day. You want to make art out of chaos? Get your 5 most important things done.
Yep.
And people are like, why are you obsessed with 5? I said, because you have 5 fingers.
Yeah.
5 fingers. If you can do your most important things, you go out on a date. What are your 5 non-negotiables for a girl? What are they?
Yep.
Know them. Because once you don't have it, walk away. Well, she's 3 out of 5. That's a failure. Move on.
Yep. Start to find the next one.
Find the next one. And it's okay because it's a process of trial and error. And it's like you've seen too many Hallmark movies, right?
Yeah.
Too many Hallmark movies where, everything just comes together. And I'm like, that's a movie. Let me tell you how life really is. You're going to, the old princess, you're going to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince.
Yep.
You're going to kiss a lot of frogs to find a princess.
There's so many things that we could talk about. I mean, it's that whole along the lines of like, looking at a magazine, which magazines aren't as prevalent as they used to be, but they show the perfect example of what, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was growing up, we had a couple posters of Cindy Crawford on the wall. It's like, she's a beautiful woman. Not every woman looks like that. And as a matter of fact, she's like the 0.0002% that do. And we sit there and we've set this up. Well, now women are looking at that and they're going, oh, this is what I got to look like. And they'll never get there. Like it's all about the perception of what it is. And men do that too. Like I do the same thing. It's like I'm sitting there looking at myself. It's like I don't feel like I'm in pretty decent shape, but I don't think I am. And it's because I look at this other guy over here who's got a 6-pack and and all that stuff. And you're like, yeah, well, I don't look like that.
Yeah, it took me over 2 years of filming TikToks before I got used to listening to my own voice and seeing my own face. Okay.
That's the number one thing that people say about podcasting. I can't do it. I don't like my voice. And it's like, what do you mean you don't like your voice?
Yeah. But it is funny because you really have to get used to it and then refine it if you want to.
Right.
Like I've done with the TikToks is slowly but surely I've found an energy level that I need to have at the TikTok to move my audience.
Right.
Okay. So there's a degree of acting that goes into it that I didn't realize when I started. And so you'll see me do a perfectly good outtake, right? And I'll go, I didn't have the right energy. I need to do that one over. Wow, I didn't really smile at the front of that. Oh God, look at that. I'm depressed. I mean,
right? Because the perception is everything, right?
But listen, I only am occupying their day for 7 to 11 seconds.
Right.
That's it. And so from 7 to 11 seconds, I need to make a positive impact on their life. That's all I get. I'm not there doing a 15-minute video. This is,
right.
And so consequently, I really do want to see the right inflection, see the right look, I want it to come off. And so I've learned over time to get better. And, for a while it was like, this is awful. I mean, I'm telling you, the first couple months, it was awful.
Yeah. And I think that I don't know when I came across you. You've probably been doing it for a while, but it's funny how you think that way. Like I go back, I'm the same way. Like go back and look at the first podcast, look at the conversations that I had. Like I'm the same person. I've just practiced my craft, you know.
Yep.
And you get to the
Yeah.
point where you're realizing this is what I need to do. This is how I hook them, and this is what I do. But
Well, yeah, and you want to be engaged.
yeah,
You want them to be able to look at you and say, "Hey, it's meaningful." So,
right. Well, let's talk about. You said to ask you about a dating app. We'll talk about that real quick, and then we'll kind of talk about what we're going to be doing here in the future a little bit more, and then we'll get going.
sure. So basically, somebody had asked me a question. It was another TikToker, and she was talking about dating apps, and I said, "Why are you using a dating app?" And she said, "Well, because that connects me." I said, "You do realize that they're designed for failure?" And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, let's think about it. How did they monitorize your time? They monitorize you being on the app. They do not monitorize your success. In other words, if you find a spouse, you don't pay them an extra $10,000. You actually get off their app and stop using it and become a dead customer.
Yep.
So they don't want you to be successful. They want you to come back." I said, "So think about the model. So what are they doing to you while you're supposedly learning these people? You're throwing more and more opportunities in your face, and they're giving you these unlimited opportunities, and they're giving you this whole model that makes absolutely no sense except for them.
Right.
Because you're always like, well, let me go on to the next one and go on to the next one and go on to the next one." And I'm saying, okay, but again, what are you trying to accomplish? Well, I want to accomplish forever. And I'm like, okay, well, probably shouldn't use an app whose model is for you to stay on there forever. That's their model.
Yeah.
I said, so they're not going to be truthful with you. They're not going to promulgate the things. In other words, you and they are not working hand in hand for your betterment.
Yep.
They're working hand in hand for their betterment. And
That's
so consequently, I ran through that in one of the chapters on the dating app because she basically was complaining about men not being committed, men not being this and that. And she was right, of course. But I also said, a dating app? I said, why don't you just get a group of friends, use social media to gather a group of friends. When you're ready, because I know you're going through a divorce, when you're ready to date, reach out to your friends that you've gotten over this time and say, hey, can you suggest anybody for me to date? Use them as vetting tools. We do that in the real world.
yeah.
What happens when you get divorced or something is your friends all go, I knew who you should go out with.
Right.
All I'm saying is use social media in a positive way to, open up vistas for you with people that actually know you over time.
Yeah.
Probably a better. Yeah.
That's it's funny because I've been married for 24 years, and I always have said, like, if I go back, like if I ever got a divorce or something happened to my wife or whatever, I wouldn't do that. I'm not getting on social media because I don't want a connection that's based on a picture that looks like something that it may not be,
Yeah.
And that's amazing to think about it that way, because as you think about the dating app that way, that's pretty much how all apps are. Like you're scrolling through TikTok and you're like, oh, that's crap, swipe, there's the good one, boom, all right, now they got you hooked, and you're like, all right, here's another one. You just keep going through there and you're just vetting it out, just like you said. Now they got to bring you back, so they want to make sure the last one you saw gets you back in there. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I also told people, I said, remember what they're doing to your brain chemistry. Remember, every time you're getting a click or you're getting a hit of dopamine, okay, you're becoming addicted. And it's not because you're like some kind of failure human being that gets addicted to things. It's not that. It's your brain literally hitting you with shots of the good stuff, right? All the good brain chemistry. Every time you get a like or a ping or anything like that, I said, be careful. Turn all that crap off.
Yeah.
Turn it all off. I'm not saying be on the app all you want, but turn off the bells and whistles and stuff because they're little dopamine hits.
Yep.
You need to get control of your brain. When you get control of your brain, you will begin to understand. And that's what first dating is. And I know, again, 24 years of marriage, but that first couple weeks of dating is like dopamine hits. Everything's new.
Right.
Well, what happens is 6 weeks in, 7 weeks, 8 weeks in, you're no longer getting the dopamine hits. All of a sudden, your opposite person looks less and less appealing.
Mhm.
Even though you've done all the bonding and all that kind of stuff, you're not getting the short-term hits. All of a sudden, your desire is, I want to go back on the dating app.
Right.
Why? Oh man, that felt good. You're hooked.
Yeah.
That's
It's crazy. Well, we could talk all day about this, but we're going to have plenty of opportunities in the future to
yes.
talk about this. I'm excited to do this. We got 39 chapters in the book that we're going to kind of break down as we go through our 39 essays. We'll
Right.
see where it goes, and we're going to do it. We still haven't quite totally got everything figured out, but I look forward to
Yeah,
doing that.
along with my lighting and my I'm working on it.
It's a process. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be fun, and everyone will be having the chance to see more of Robert and I. And I think what his book has to do really just boils into shaping success of what it's about and helping other people be better. And it'll be great to break it down and see where it goes, because we got a lot of talking to do.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
So tell everyone when the book's coming out and where's the best place to find you before we head out.
Well, the book should be out, and I say the word should because you don't really control that. Should be out the end of January, 1st of February. I'll have a firm date here probably when it comes back from the editor in the first week of January, but it should be either January 31st or up until probably February 10th. Beyondthehype.media or arsvictorious.com.
Awesome.
All that stuff should be up and running here shortly.
Yep, we'll get that all in the show notes. Make sure you guys can find Robert, and look forward to having more conversations with you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Wes.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone, that is the end of the show. As I said, Robert will be kind of a mainstay on Shaping Success. We're trying to think about how to do it because Morning Coffee's kind of been like Shaping Success Morning Coffee. I think the interviews like we just did will be more of like just the Shaping Success interviews. I got to figure out what to call that. And we're just going to kind of keep rolling with it and growing this network so that we have more and more success tips to offer you. But until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.